Hi, I'm Julia, and this is Crash Course World History, and today we're actually not going to be talking about history. We're going to be talking about a current event, so let's go.
Miss Julia, what current event are we talking about today?
Thanks for asking me. We're going to be talking about the guerrilla group in Colombia. No, Stan, not the gorilla as in monkey. The guerrilla as in the rebel group in Colombia. So you might be asking, what the heck is a guerrilla? Not the monkey. A guerrilla is a member of a small independent group taking part in irregular fighting, typically against larger regular forces. So today we're going to be talking about the Colombia's rebel ELN group. And ELN stands for the National Liberation Army, which is an armed group involved in the continuing Colombian armed conflict, which has existed in Colombia since 1964. The ELN formed to fight for land rights and safeguard rural communities. Who actually led it were actually students, the Cuban Revolution-inspired students, Catholic radicals, led by brothers Fabio and Manuel Vasquez Castano, to form the ELN to fight for popular democracy in Colombia. These individuals believe that they represented the majority of Colombians, with people with economic, political, and social injustice because of exclusion by the state. The ELN are the second strongest rebel group in Colombia besides FARC. In the first half-decade, Colombia has finally declared a ceasefire. Now you're probably like, what's a ceasefire? So a ceasefire is a temporary suspension of fighting, typically one during which peace talks take place. A truce, basically. Now let's talk about some things the ELN groups did. So the ELN started kidnapping politicians and wealthy landowners for revenue in order to build the groups. Together, kidnapping and extortion became the ELN's primary source of revenue, bringing in $225 million in 1998 alone. Since ELN also used profits from marijuana, drug leaders were able to produce cocaine and ship it to the U.S. by ship or boat. So during the 1970s, Colombia became a major supplier in the international drug market. Homicide or murder also became the leading death cause in Colombia. Also in 1990s, ELN began extorting oil company employees. So basically Colombia's like, I'm over it, like let's just stop doing this. So they declared a ceasefire, and it was the first ceasefire, the first time in 50 years. In an announcement made in Caracas, the Colombian government and leaders of the ELN said that they would begin talks to end the rebels' 5-decade uprising and set a 6-point negotiating agenda signed by the government negotiator Frank Pearl and rebel leader Antonio Garcia. Basically, what they're trying to do, they're just trying to have peace in Colombia. What President Juan Santos said, he quotes, "It will be the end of guerrilla groups, and we can all concentrate democratically on making our country the free, normal, modern, just, and inclusive place it can and should be." So, unlike the FARC, another rebel group, which has a strict hierarchy and whose project was to take power, the ELN prides itself on having a more participatory leadership and sees itself as a resistance movement instead. So what do both parties have to agree on for this truce? The ELN has promised to stop recruiting minors, attacks on roads, and kidnappings, but they have been accused of stepping up its bomb attacks on oil pipelines in the lead up to the truce. And for the government had to agree to improve prison conditions for about 450 rebels that they have captured. And now it's time for the open letter. An open letter to HEPEX. Now, how is all of this related to HEPEX? Well, we can obviously see that this is highly political. These peace talks about stopping the ELN have been going on since 1998. Also, during the peace talks in mid-2000s, the ELN got support and assistance from former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez. And Colombia's armed forces were given orders to suspend operations against the guerrillas. So pretty much everyone's just trying to be like, why can't we be friends? Why can't we So that is it for our crash course today, and I hope we can have a good discussion in our pods. Bye! Crash Course is brought to you by Recording at My House, and shout out to Global Studies class of 2020. Woo!